Muchachos y muchachas, Ghislaine Maxwell trial, day 5. We have a recap, and we left off yesterday with 𝘏𝘶𝘮𝘢, the household employee of Epstein. He testified quite a few details, from witnessing what seemed to be young underage girls around his atmosphere, Epstein's, that is, just a lot of funny things about the massage times and the details along with that. And there's details, and as well as Ghislaine Maxwell running a tight ship, as she was the one who ran the household, or at least that's what it seemed. There was also a clinical psychologist, trauma expert, Dr. 𝘱𝘭𝘏, who went through the process and definition of child grooming. All of that is very relevant as this trial transpires. Now, today, we began the trial with 𝘏𝘶𝘮𝘰 continuing on his testimony, and as well as this trial introduced new evidence as well as another witness. Stay right there. We're going to go through it. A bicyclist in Florida got a strange email from Google. It said law enforcement was requesting his user data. He had 10 days to go to court if he wanted to fight it. The bicyclist later found out that he was a suspect in a burglary. His Google location pinged him near the scene of the crime nearly 1 year ago. Law enforcement wanted access to his phone. However, he was innocent. He was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, but his phone seemed to have betrayed him. This is why having a VPN like Virtual Shield is so important. Virtual Shield can hide your location from tech giants, on top of already hiding your internet history from your ISP. Using VPN prevents tech companies and law enforcement from false accusations like they did to this bicyclist. I highly recommend Virtual Shield VPN. Get 50% off for life with a free 30-day trial only by downloading it today. Go to virtualshield.com/Natly Denise or click the link in the description below. All right, Ghislaine Maxwell trial, day 5. And before I begin, I just want to say a big, fat, genuine thank you. Thank you so much to all those that made a purchase of my new collection. And obviously this is used because I'm using it every day. That's why it's a little dirty, but this is my new collection. It comes with 3 long-lasting lip colors, and they dry down matte, as well as a face palette with 9 eyeshadows and 2 blushes, 1 highlighter, 1 contour. And they're very well pigmented. So I really appreciate you guys believing in my vision for success. From what I believe, I'm one of the very few Patriot cosmetic brand owners. So I'm very excited for that. Also, it has social responsibility starting out. This is 𝘱𝘭𝘭 Mauve. Every single cent of this particular color, which is separate from the collection, goes towards human trafficking rescue and aftercare. So I'm very excited to give this money out as well as a way of giving back and starting off my company well. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Ghislaine Maxwell, day 5. Let's see what transpired in this. So with yesterday, we learned that 𝘏𝘶𝘮𝘰, who was the Epstein, I believe, like he was an employee. He was a number of things. It seemed like he was a jack of all trades, a maintenance, a driver, just a general employee of the household. So we left off with his testimony, and today the defense team on Maxwell's part actually pounced him, and they tried to poke holes in his testimony and credibility as well, and we'll talk about that. Now, this is coming from the New York Times, and as I like to do, I like to genericize everything that happened in parts and then go to the play-by-play transcript, so that way we have a holistic understanding of how this trial is actually transpiring. And that's the way that we have to do it, because it's not being televised. All right. So coming from the New York Times, a 5th day of testimony in the federal sex trafficking trial of Ghislaine Maxwell began on Friday with a defense lawyer aggressively questioning Jeffrey Epstein's former house manager, who a day earlier had described lurid scenes inside Mr. Epstein's mansion in Palm Beach, Florida. Ms. Maxwell is accused of helping Epstein abuse teenage girls, and the witness 𝘏𝘶𝘮𝘰 described seeing 2 girls who appeared to be underage at the property with Maxwell and Epstein. But as soon as Mr. 𝘱𝘮𝘰 took the stand on Friday morning to be cross-examined, a defense lawyer, Jeffrey Palooka, sought to discredit him by portraying him and telling an incomplete story about stealing from his former employer. And that's a key word right here, an incomplete story, which is typically how dishonest, whatever it is, dishonest reporters, journalists, lawyers, whatever it is, that's typically a tactic that they utilize, is they share just cherry-picked pieces of a story and portray that as the gospel, right? So telling him an incomplete story about stealing from his former employer. During the testimony on Thursday, Mr. 𝘏𝘮 admitted to stealing from Mr. Epstein once, but on Friday, under intense questioning by Mr. 𝘞𝘏, he admitted that in the past he had described stealing a second time. Is it true that you stole money to pay for your girlfriend's immigration papers? Mr. 𝘞𝘏 asked. It was not my girlfriend, sir, Mr. 𝘏𝘮 replied. Mr. 𝘞𝘏 read aloud from a law enforcement and court records that Mr. 𝘏𝘮 had previously said about stealing from Mr. Epstein. When Mr. 𝘏𝘮 conceded that he had previously described making 2 separate visits to the Palm Beach home and taking money both times, when Mr. 𝘞𝘏 confronted him with the record of one of his older statements and asked whether he had in fact said that record what that record indicated, Mr. 𝘏𝘮 replied, "I guess I did." The exchange was emblematic of how Ms. Maxwell's lawyers have vigorously challenged testimony from the government's main witnesses. And this is actually true. And I got to give credit where it's due. The New York Times is actually reporting this. They're saying what needs to be said. And they also said the same thing about Jane when they were pressing Jane about, for instance, this is just an example. The other day, the defense team, and that's Maxwell's defense team, they tried to make it appear as if there's holes in the story or as if Jane was uncredible. For instance, there was what was it? It was a Lion King, where the witness accuser Jane accused Jeffrey Epstein of taking her on a trip to see the Lion King, and I think it was a age indifference to the date that Lion King published as a movie versus the age that she portrayed to be, and they were trying to use that angle to make her not credible. So I just applaud once again that the New York Times is actually calling it for what it is, and that's actually this is actually appreciated. Prosecutors had called Mr. 𝘏𝘮 to the stand to describe the scene inside the home where Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell shared a bedroom. Mr. 𝘏𝘮 said that while he worked there through the 1990s, many females showed up, and it was a routine for women to lounge topless by the pool. Mr. 𝘏𝘮 testified after one of Epstein's many massage sessions, which he said took place behind closed doors as often as 3 times a day. He found a sizable sex toy. We went over that yesterday, and he basically cleaned it up, put it in a basket inside Maxwell's bathroom. He said 2 girls who appeared to be underage, including one who testified under the name Jane, and Mr. Epstein had begun sexually abusing her when she was 14 years old and also shown up to several occasions. Jane spent time with both Epstein and Maxwell, according to Mr. 𝘏𝘮, and both adults separately instructed him, Mr. 𝘏𝘮, to pick Jane up in a car and bring her to the Palm Beach home. Mr. 𝘏𝘮's testimony helped establish more firmly that Mr. Epstein had cultivated a sexualized atmosphere at his home and bolsters the government's case to that. To him, massages were synonymous with sexual activity. An expert witness for the prosecution yesterday did testify that abusers commonly worked to groom victims by discussing sex, telling sexual jokes, and engaging in massages. The testimony by Juan 𝘏𝘮 also supported the assertion that is at the heart of the prosecution's case, Ms. Maxwell, that she was Mr. Epstein's active partner in the repeated sexual abuse of girls whom she helped bring into his orbit. All right. With that being said, let's go ahead and pivot to the transcript here and give you guys a play-by-play of how this all transpired. And as I always introduce, who is this person that I'm taking the transcript from? Well, this is Matthew Russell. I believe the full name is Matthew Russell Lee. He is an independent reporter with the Inner Press City. And the reason why, and especially him, when I saw that he was given a play-by-play, I was like, yes, go you. Because he is one of the only independent journalists that has ever, before we even knew about Epstein, I believe, he has actually questioned the UN on their association with Maxwell's Oceanic Foundation Terramar. He has exposed that there are particular individuals in the UN that were very close to Maxwell, and they have since refused to comment. So I see that he's doing a play-by-play, and I would just assume that he is trying to get to transparency and truth out there of what's going on inside that courtroom. With that being said, here's a play-by-play of the continuation of 𝘏𝘶𝑦's testimony. Now, this seems to be before the jury gets into the courtroom, and so this seems to be some sort of banter between the two teams, prosecution and defense, as well as Judge Nathan. Maxwell's lawyer, before the jury comes in, seeing semen on the table is going to be prejudicial. Attorney USA, who's the prosecution team, says, it was a white stain. It's entirely probative as to whether these massages were just massages or, in fact, sexual. Judge Nathan then says, I would permit lab tests. Attorney U.S. Assistant on the prosecution team says, the fact that Mr. Epstein had a collection of schoolgirl uniforms is relevant. Maxwell's lawyer says this has little connection with Maxwell and is prejudicial. Attorney USA says schoolgirl costumes, small ones, were found at the massage room. Maxwell's lawyer says they should not be described as schoolgirl uniforms. Attorney USA says, I'll just lay the foundation and ask the witness about them. Judge Nathan says you could say without describing them, did you find these items? So again, you just kind of get this prelude on the Maxwell defense team, how they're trying to not say what it is, don't say it's schoolgirl uniforms. And so they're finding some sort of technicalities with that. Continued on. Judge Nathan, maybe there's a way to position two screens and only show them to the jurors. I'll ask Ms. Williams and the AV people. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped over a part. Maxwell's lawyer says the interior and artwork changed by 2019. The witness we called Jane said it was creepy with drawing of monsters on the walls and naked women. We think these photos should be excluded, the photos of the nude girls in the massage room. And my question is why? This, again, this seems to be some sort of prelude to the banter between the defense team, and they're trying to exclude certain details that are actually pretty illustrative of how atmospheric and sexualized this entire house and atmosphere was. So I just find it very much more telling that they're trying to exclude these things than they are trying to help the case or what. But of course, they're on the Maxwell defense team, so that would tell you a lot about that. So they're trying to exclude the artwork, which also another comment that I have to make is why does it matter, right? Because this is Epstein. And if they're trying to claim at the very beginning that, that they're trying to use Maxwell as a scapegoat for Epstein's doings, then why are they even concerned with the artwork that is on Epstein's house? You see what I'm like? I'm not a lawyer, but I already poked a hole there. It's like these things are associated with Epstein's house. So why would it be implicative of Maxwell if they would want to exclude that? It's Epstein's house. And if they're trying to use Maxwell as a scapegoat, as we went over on day one, why does that matter? I'm just saying. I'm just making comments. Anyway, continued. Judge Nathan, maybe there's a way to position two screens and only show them to the jurors. I'll ask Miss Williams to ask the AV people, audiovisual people, if they can show the video only to the jurors and see it and no one else. We'll see. Please bring it to the jurors. So again, they don't want the artwork of the Epstein household being shown to everybody, just the jurors. Judge Nathan proceeds. Mr. 𝘏𝘶𝑦, you may return to the stand. Jury enters. All rise. Maxwell's lawyer, he says, Mr. 𝘏𝘶𝑦, you said you were called Juan, but don't you sometimes say, I am John? 𝘏𝘶𝑦 says, I am John in English. Maxwell's lawyer says, Miss Maxwell speaks Spanish and called you Juan. You did not take it as an insult, no? And 𝘏𝘶𝑦 says, no, I did not. Maxwell's lawyer says, you took $6,300, right? And 𝘏𝘶𝑦 says, yes. Maxwell's lawyer then says, but you didn't lie when you stole twice, in fact. And 𝘏𝘶𝑦 said, I didn't lie. Maxwell's lawyer says, "Did you try to steal a gun? Did you try to steal over $5,000 to pay for immigration papers of your girlfriend?" 𝘱𝘬𝘮 said, "That was not my girlfriend." Maxwell's lawyer then goes into questioning. "Police officer Dawson questioned you." And 𝘱𝘬𝘮 says, "No, I went to him." Maxwell's lawyer then says, "You told him you went in to steal a gun." And 𝘱𝘬𝘮 responds, "I don't recall." Maxwell's lawyer said, "You might have said it, but now you don't recall?" 𝘱𝘬𝘮 says, "That's it." Maxwell's lawyer says, "You went back once again to steal money." 𝘱𝘬𝘮 said, "I did one time, and I think that's what I told the police." Maxwell's lawyer then says, "You went through the sliding glass door and stole $5,600 from Mr. Epstein's briefcase, $100 bills in a white envelope." Maxwell's lawyer then continues. Whoops, go back. Maxwell's lawyer then continues, "Show the witness 3504-002 deposition transcript. I move for admission under Rule 801. A note from Matthew, who is the transcriber of what's going on. A is inconsistent with the declarant's testimony. It was given under penalty of perjury at trial, hearing, or other proceeding, or in deposition." Continued on, Maxwell's lawyer says, "You stole $6,000 when you owned properties valued at $1 million. 𝘱𝘬𝘮 says, "I sold those properties to buy the property for the multifamily." Maxwell's lawyer then says, "Let's look again at 3504-002 deposition page 145. Note, during all this, Ghislaine Maxwell is leaning back and even mass, seems pleased with herself. When first we practiced to deceive." Maxwell's lawyer then says, "I'm having trouble seeing it here." Alert. Maxwell's lawyer has just openly said the real name of one of the pseudonymous survivor witnesses. As you guys know, one of the witnesses that we know of goes by Jane. So what he's saying here is he's making note that the Maxwell defense team actually said the actual real name out loud, so didn't keep her pseudonymous. Judge Nathan, "You are admonished to abide by my rulings." Attorney USA says, "May we approach?" Sidebar begins. Returning from sidebar, Maxwell's lawyer pointedly says, "Mr. 𝘱𝘬𝘮, you testified about when Jane met Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell." 𝘱𝘬𝘮 says, "In this testimony, I mistook the two." Maxwell's lawyer says in 2016, "You were directed to name Jane and you said no." Now Maxwell's lawyer is cross-examining Juan 𝘱𝘬𝘮 about Epstein's Palm Beach house. Unclear what Judge Nathan will do about the team Maxwell repeatedly blurring out the real names of the synonymous survivors, meaning that they continue to not just once as a mistake, but they're continuing to say the real name of the survivors. Maxwell's lawyer, "Do you see the notation, you moldings in the bedrooms?" 𝘱𝘬𝘮 says yes. Maxwell's lawyer, "And during construction, no one lives in this?" 𝘱𝘬𝘮 says, "No, during the part of Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell lived there." And it seems to be that that is the end of the play-by-play transcript. Let's pivot back to the generalization of what was happening. This is where we introduce a new witness, new testimony with evidence. New evidence in Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, Epstein's massage table. The jury of Ghislaine Maxwell's sex trafficking trial watched the video on Friday afternoon and showed the house in Palm Beach, Florida, where Ms. Maxwell once shared a bedroom with the financier Jeffrey Epstein. The video was recorded in 2005 by the Palm Beach Police Department when it executed a search warrant at the home. After watching it, the jurors got an in-person look at one of the items officers seized during that visit: a bright green folding massage table found in a second-floor bathroom. A former Palm Beach officer testified that an evidence label attached to the table, which was unfolded and set up in the courtroom, showed that it was the same one taken in 2005. Massages and massage tables have been cited several times in the first week of Ms. Maxwell's trial on sex trafficking and other charges. A witness who testified under the name Jane said that when she was 14, Ms. Maxwell and Mr. Epstein led her to a massage table and showed her how Mr. Epstein liked to be massaged. She added that Mr. Epstein used massage sessions as an occasion for sexual abuse. A former property manager at the Palm Beach home testified that Mr. Epstein had received a massages as many as 3 times a day and more, then once left a large sex toy behind. The former officer who identified the massage table, Gregory Parkinson, who testified that he recorded the video in 2005. Although the jurors were shown the footage, others in the courtroom, including reporters, were not permitted to view it. Judge Allison Nathan of the Federal District Court in Manhattan admitted the video under seal to protect the privacy of people who may have appeared in it. Earlier that day, defense lawyers and prosecutors discussed in front of the judge photographs or images that were visible in the video, including at least one showing a partly clad girl. While screening the video, a prosecutor paused it at times to ask Mr. Parkinson to identify for jurors sections of the house, including the garden room, the lake room. He offered a few details about what visible in the video. A few photographs were entered into evidence without being placed under seal. Those included pictures of a couch, a chair, upholstered in what appeared to be a seersucker-like fabric of a 4-post bed with a white duvet positioned under recessed lighting in Mr. Epstein's bedroom, and of the massage table. All right, now we get to Mr. Parkinson's testimony. I'm going to take just a swig of water. I'm talking a lot. All right. Continued on. So this is the beginning of the testimony of Gregory Parkinson, a former police officer who actually executed a search warrant inside his home. They're showing the videos of restart. They are showing the jurors a video of the search warrant reading and execution at Epstein's house, but the press and public can't see it. Attorney USA Maureen Comey says, "At 1 minute, where are we?" Parkinson says, "A 3-car garage." Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey, "What do we see here during the search?" Officer Parkinson says, "A picture of Pope John Paul with Jeffrey Epstein." Continued on. Attorney USA Maureen Comey is still telling the jurors to look at the seal exhibit after the other, and now government exhibit 225. One might say this is a semi-public trial. Continued on. Attorney USA Maureen Comey, "I ask that the government exhibit 234 be admitted. Under seal, also 241 under seal." Judge Nathan says, "Granted, under seal." Finally, some exhibits not under seal. Attorney USA Comey says, "What is this, exhibit 228? Parkinson, who is the officer, or former officer rather, replies, "It's the garden room." There are photos spread out all over the floor, but no details can be made out. Attorney USA Comey says, "I'd like the jurors to look at their binders and exhibit 255, witnesses only. I asked the government exhibit 278, the master bedroom, be under seal to protect privacy." And I'm as well. I'm like, oh, what? That's what Matthew, but he put those 3 question marks right there. You guys see that? That's actually funny. It's like I'm in his head. I'm like, yeah, me too. Judge Nathan, "We'll take our break. Snacks are here." Continued on. Now even Judge Nathan says U.S. has gone too far in sealing the entire 39-minute video, says some portions should be made public. Attorney USA Maureen Comey says, "We'll work on that." Good. So maybe we'll get a little piece of that video. In fairness to Judge Nathan, it was the jurors who took this next break. The judge and lawyers stayed to argue and now take a comfort break. Inner City Press continued on. Okay, the jurors are back from the snack break. Attorney USA Maureen Comey says, "Let's turn to government exhibit 278. Parkinson, the officer, former officer Parkinson, that's what I'm going to start saying now. It's a bathroom with a phone and a pink 3-cushion couch, and that's the portable inflatable massage table. We're back to mass seating." Attorney USA Maureen Comey says, "I asked to admit government exhibit 285 under seal and direct the jurors' attention to that writing." Finally, Parkinson comes out, Officer Parkinson, former Officer Parkinson, comes out of the witness box and touches government exhibit 51, the green massage table. Attorney USA Maureen Comey says, "We offer this massage table into evidence. I ask that the exhibit be published for the jury by setting up the table." Former Officer Parkinson says, now the table is in open position. Exhibit 51A, photo of the massage table is on the side. Attorney USA Comey says, where was it manufactured? Parkinson, Vista, California. Attorney USA Comey, no further questions. Judge Nathan, Mr. 𝘱𝘭𝘪𝘳, you may cross. Maxwell's lawyer, 𝘱𝘱𝘭𝘪, says you previously investigated a burglary there, correct? Former Officer Parkinson said true. 𝘱𝘱𝘭𝘪 then says, and Mr. Epstein said that several $1,000s had been stolen, right? Parkinson says true. 𝘱𝘱𝘭𝘪 is jumping around with his questions, laughing uncomfortably now. Weird. He asked Parkinson about the exhibit sealed that is Epstein's desk and the photos on it. And without apparently landing a punch, 𝘱𝘱𝘭𝘪's cross-examination of Parkinson's is over. 𝘱𝘱𝘭𝘪, again, is an attorney that is defending Ghislaine Maxwell. Judge Nathan, you may step down, Mr. Parkinson. You are free to take your flight. New U.S. witness starting at 4:38 p.m. on Friday, Michael Dawson, Palm Beach PD. Attorney USA then says, what are you looking for during the search? Former Officer Dawson, or I think he is an officer. I'm just going to say Officer Dawson. Officer Dawson says, massage tables and oil, sex toys. There were a lot of photos of nude females. We seized a phone book, a massage table, a photo of a nude female, a sex toy called the 𝘠𝘪𝑭𝘏. Flashes on screen and is now gone. Now cross-examination starting at 4:49 p.m. Maxwell's lawyer. I'm going to prove up an inconsistent statement. Judge Nathan, confer first. After time, Maxwell's lawyer says, we need a sidebar, non-public. Now the questioning turns to Juan Alisi's admission of stealing from Epstein, but it's now 4:59 p.m. Cross-examination interruptus. Judge Nathan, we're done for the week. Obey my instructions. And by the way, we will not sit December 13th, 14th, or 15th. Why is not explained. Some letters due Saturday and Sunday, both at 8 p.m. All rise, it's done. Interesting. December 13th, 14th, or 15th. All right. So with all of that being said, that was the day 5 coverage. So let me just recap this very quickly for you. It seemed quite a little bit today, but we heard from Juan Alesi, who the defense team for Maxwell, they tried to make him not credible. I think he did admit to stealing money from Epstein at one point, and they injected that as some sort of detail to make him not credible as far as his witness testimony goes. And then they introduced Gregory Parkinson, who is a former police officer who executed the search warrant on Epstein's house. And then they introduced Officer Dawson, which didn't give too much testimony. So I would imagine we will hear more about Dawson's testimony on Monday. Now, he did begin to attest to the same things that we've heard from Alesi and from the other testimonies about the massage atmosphere, the massage room atmosphere, sex toys, oils, things of that nature. So I would only imagine it's going to get a little bit more grimy on Monday. We'll see. So we will continue this on Monday. But I do have a video coming out after this one. You guys heard about the 17 times that Jeffrey Epstein was documented at the White House during Bill Clinton's presidency, right? Well, if you didn't, I've got all the tea coming up after this video. So please be sure to give this video a like, share this video with all of your groups, whether it be Facebook, Telegram, Instagram, wherever you have a Discord, whatever groups you have, discussions and conversations in. Please drop this link there in those groups. Get me out there. I'm one of the few, if not the only, that is covering this day by day because I feel that is important, and I think it's important to stay transparent. So again, the Jeffrey Epstein 17 visits to the White House, that video is coming up. Outside of that, I will catch you guys in continuation of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. We will continue this on Monday, as it will continue Monday. You guys have a wonderful weekend if I don't publish another video before Monday. And I hope that you rest up and take it easy. Guys, I love you. See you later.